Let's talk about board game, please. Let's talk about 1, 2, 3. Hey nerds, what's up? Welcome to another board game video. I haven't done one of these in a while where I specifically talk about new board games that I've either played or am stoked to play. I know that the last time I did one of these, you guys really seemed to like it. So, especially because Gen Con just happened, so there's been a lot of gameplay as well as just announcements of new games coming to the board game community. So I'm super excited to talk about the ones I am really excited about, as well as some games that I have been able to play recently. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm just going to do some quick overviews of the games that we recently got and played. Excuse me. So the first game that we played recently was Trails. We actually took this game on our vacation and were able to play with 2 other of our friends, which was really fun, and it was very compact and easy to play. We played it in our hotel room because the weather in Vegas was 110 degrees at night. So anyway, but this game was super awesome, so I'm very glad that we were able to play. It's very simple, just like Parks, had a lot of the same kind of mechanics of where you have a hiker going along each of the pieces and destinations. You're collecting badges instead of parks, as well as different resources in order to obtain those badges. So it was a really fun, and I remember talking about this because I had gotten it for my husband because I thought this was an expansion for Parks, but it wasn't. But it's been a great little game that it was very easy to pack into our suitcase for vacation. The next board game that we got to play, and we got it right actually before vacation, was Expeditions, the Scythe sequel basically. This game is very cool and very awesome. I'm very glad we got it. It has a lot of Scythe, a lot of the same kind of mechanics as Scythe, especially for collecting stars in order to gain victory points at the end of the game, and it is still whoever has the most coin wins the game. But with the tiles, you can flip them over and explore a different land, and you're looking specifically for a forbidden hidden laboratory because there's some dark stuff going on in this area in this time. So it's very fun, very cool kind of theme and mechanic that we're bringing into the game, but it still feels very much like Scythe without it being a Scythe repeat, obviously. So I've been really excited to play this a couple of times. All of the mecha miniatures are super cool looking. So yeah, I've been super happy and excited that we've been able to play Expeditions. The newest game that I got, which is actually an older game, but I'm so excited that we own it now. It is Tokaido, and I'm so excited we own this. This has been a game that I have been wanting to play and look at since my first released aesthetically pleasing board game video. Someone recommended this game to me, and I finally found a physical copy at a board game shop, which is super awesome. So yeah, we played this game, and it's a really simple, just very quick to pick up game that's aesthetically pleasing. It's right up my alley for just all of the components that it brings into it of set collecting and just colors and artwork. It's a wonderful little game that's not heavy at all. It's a really good game just to have, in my opinion, especially for those who love Japan and again, aesthetically pleasing games. This is not the collector's edition, so we don't have like the miniatures that I know came with like, I think the collector's edition or the 10th anniversary, but I'm just so happy we own it. So anyway, these are all the newest games that I've been able to play, and I've had just a joy playing. So now that we've gotten these games out of the way, let's get to the juicy stuff. Let's talk about some of the board games that have been either announced or had some testing gameplay and all of those things at Gen Con, and just what's coming up this year for all of the board game community. As we all know, Gen Con 2023 just finished up, so there were a lot of titles that were announced, plus brand new games to try out and gameplay. So I have a bunch of those that were announced / previewed from Gen Con 2023 preview list from Board Game Geek, as well as some games that I haven't heard of that were released like just last year. An expansion to the second edition of Atlantis Rising is Atlantis Rising Monstrosities. And it sounds so fun, adding a new mechanic with, it sounds like 4 different types of monsters that add more stakes to the already very high stakes game of Atlantis Rising. So it sounds really fun. You're introduced to Medusa, harpies, and a few other monsters that are just going to add a couple more mechanics to the game, including new magical items, locations, the monster abilities, as well as some new allies to help fight against them as well. So I'm just really excited because I've really enjoyed Atlantis Rising and its cooperative gameplay. And so this sounds like it's just adding another bit of peril to the game. Another expansion to our list is Cascadia Landmarks, where it's just going to add some new wildlife cards as well as the landmarks that you can place within your environments, which just adds another component to your end game scoring, as well as it adds enough components so that Cascadia can now be played for up to 6 players instead of 4. So that sounds really exciting, and again, just fun to add to this very beautiful game. Another expansion that I'm super excited for is the Iki Akabano expansion, which adds a river location to the board, as well as new game mechanics and new characters, new market goers, new fish, tobacco, all of those things to add to your game of Iki. So I'm super excited for that. They're also added, kind of like with Dune Imperium, I think board overlays or things to go right next to the board to make the organization of your cards more intentional and more organized, which is really nice. So I'm very excited to see the new game mechanics that Iki Akabano is going to add to the game. A new game announced this year, which is super exciting, is Dune Imperium Uprising, which is a spin-off off of Dune Imperium, the game, where it's using a lot of the same mechanics from the game, but with new components like a 6-player mode where you split the players into 2 teams to battle against each other, which sounds super awesome, as well as the publishers say that it should work with the expansions from Dune Imperium as well as the base cards for Dune Imperium. So it just sounds like there's a lot of things that we can add to the game, which is really cool that while it's not an expansion, it still can be used with all of our Dune Imperium items from before. A new spinoff to a series of games is Horrified Greek Monsters. I am loving all of the different themed games that Horrified is coming out with, and just using the same similar mechanics but adding like a different flavor each time, especially with the monsters. So for the Greek monsters, you are Greek gods trying to recapture all of the escaped monsters, but you have to find each monster's lair first, which sounds like another challenging component to add to the overall defeat of each of these monsters. So it sounds really fun, especially if you are into these Greek mythologies. So that just sounds like a really fun flavor to choose from the expanding world of Horrified. There are also a few games that are adding expansions / legacy options to their overall gameplay, which is very exciting, including The Lost Ruins of Arnak, The Missing Expedition. So this is going to bring 2 new characters to our game, as well as an overall legacy campaign bit to the Lost Ruins of Arnak, which is super fun sounding. I'm really intrigued by both of the new journalist and I think mechanic to the game, so I'm very excited. Also new research tracks, as well as, again, the campaign structure of Ruins of Arnak, which sounds super fun. I'm always a fan when games add the legacy, just because that means it's adding like a story. So it's like seeing a story mode for a game that you already love. I don't know if I would have ever pictured this game having a legacy, but it looks really fun just in the sense of the way that they are incorporating and making it a legacy game. This is Sagrada Artisans. You will be a rival families over the generations of carefully constructing each of your stained glass windows, and you're doing that by coloring in spaces in your own personal journal, which I think is just really really cool. And for someone who actually really enjoys coloring, this seems very satisfying. So that just seems like a really neat component. I would not have thought of it that way, but I thought that was really clever. So if you are a fan of Sagrada, you're placing colorful, dice in certain places, but it's in like strategic pattern filling way. So I just think this is a really neat way to attack this legacy type game for Sagrada. So it just really intrigues me. So I would be very interested to hear if anyone else thinks that this is a neat idea. The last expansion that I'm going to be talking about is actually the one I'm probably most excited for, just because of the way that the publishers have explained what's going to be involved. It is Ticket to Ride Legacy Legends of the West. All of the mechanics, you are doing 12 different campaigns, going from the East Coast to the West Coast in the 19th century. As the campaign goes, each new round, you are not only going to be, fulfilling your routes as you usually do in the game of Ticket to Ride, but you will be unlocking skills and frontier boxes that is going to add different mechanics or restrictions or additions to the overall gameplay of Ticket to Ride. So it just sounds really awesome, as well as you're going to have a unique board at the end of the game that might be different from everyone else's depending on the choices that you make. So it just sounds really cool and a really fun way to play Ticket to Ride. Because of this Gen Con list, it actually brought up some hype for games that were released last year, including a game called Wandering Towers. And honestly, it just looks like a really cute strategic game where you are a bunch of wizards who all have their own wizard towers, and you are working to circle around this pretty limited landscape to get to, I guess, the end tower or whatever your end goal, and you stack your towers on top of other people's towers. But that might mean that you are also stacking your tower over top of one of your wizard pieces. So it's a very strategic game of like trying to, I think, get all your wizards to the end goal. But it's definitely going to take some strategy to get there if you are being covered up with your own towers or another player's tower. So it just looks really cute, along with the 3D component of the towers being able to stack on top of each other. The next game I'm going to be talking about is more of an overall, just talking about the new releases of Darrington Press. As we know, at Gen Con 2023, Darrington Press, which is Critical Role's own like board game gameplay publishing company, they did some preview gameplay of Candela Obscura, their other role-playing system, Daggerheart, and their brand new game that they are releasing called Queen by Midnight, which is a battle royale deck building game with 6 unique princesses that are all fighting each other with both combat and guile to be crowned queen by midnight. And it looks really fun with all of the different mechanics and ways to build your deck, as well as the clock tower component in the middle. It looks really fun to play, actually. And so that was a new game that was announced, I think, earlier this year. So it looks really fun, and it's awesome that they keep coming out with new board games for us. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope that you all were excited for all of these titles that I listed. I would love to know what titles you are most excited for down below, so comment that. Anyone else been able to play Expeditions? Because I know this is a newer release. Does anyone else own Tokaido, and do you really like this game? As well as, what do you think Trails holds up to Parks? Do you like it as a secondary game? Do you care about it? Would love to know what your thoughts are. But yeah, thanks again so much for watching. My voice is leaving me. Sorry. And I'll see you guys next time.